If you will, I will just come down here and listen to all the answers as well as you guys. And what we're going to do is kind of unique. I was just thinking about this. Only in a little town in Orient where Deb lives could she create some sort of gathering to bring two people like this on our stage here. So it's been a really great experience for us.
Yeah.
So we have some questions, and we'll see how much time we have. We have a question from Tanya Olmik for Diana. And this is, a number of great fiction writers were scientists in their first career. Do you think it's simply because scientists have good imaginations that they become good writers? Or is it that they follow the scientific method in their research and writing?
I'm not sure how you would write a novel using the scientific method, really. Science and art are just two sides of the same coin. Both of those depend on the ability to draw patterns out of chaos, to look at a mess of facts or whatever and say, this is what's happening, or this, I think this is what's happening. When you do this in science, you look at that and you think you see a pattern and you form a hypothesis, which just basically says, I think this is what's happening. Then you figure out an experiment to test and see whether it looks like that's what's happening. If that's not what's happening, you throw that hypothesis away and get another one. If it's supported, then you go on. When you do it in art, at least in writing and so forth, the novel or the piece of writing you produce as your hypothesis, and you test it by loosing it on the unsuspecting populace. And if it works, then yeah, you saw something.
For Graham, we have a similar question about creation. Now, as an actor, you have created a vast array of interesting characters in your career, and Outlander notwithstanding, do you have some favorite parts, really favorite parts that you played and created?
Favorite parts? Outlander notwithstanding, and that really is a favorite part. Dougal is a fascinating, complicated man that's a joy to play. But beyond that, on stage, Vincent van Gogh, another complicated guy. If any of you are familiar with a play, Long Day's Journey into Night by Eugene O'Neill, I played Jamie Tyrone in that, and that was one of my most enjoyable theatre experiences. So wonderful play. In fact, I'm a huge fan of American drama generally. Death the Salesman, similarly, playing Death. That. It's one of the few times that my poor long-suffering father was brought to every single play that I ever performed in by my mother. And I performed all over Britain. And he would always be there, and mainly he would complain about the seats. The seats are terribly uncomfortable, right? It's very uncomfortable. And on that one occasion, I did Death the Salesman, and he walked, and we've got to remember that this is a dour Glaswegian born in 1922, so not given to sort of flowery language, I think. And he walked me to the bar to get a drink. He stood with me by the bar, and after the show, he turned to me and he said, "You made me cry." And then he didn't say anything else. And I looked at him and I was like, I could almost be sure that he'd said that to me. And he did. And that was the highest compliment that anybody's ever given me. But apart from the obvious ones, the parts are enjoyable, and stage allows you to explore them fully in the same way that something like Outlander allows you, because it's over a long period of time you're able to gain teeth. But often with film and television, that's not necessarily the case. The Hobbit being an exception, that was a great experience. But the experiences themselves, almost more than the characters, can be enjoyable. Rambo was an amazing experience because of where we did it and who I was doing it with. Sylvester Stallone was an extraordinary man, and it was a great pleasure working with him. So those are definitely highlights. Microphone. Excuse me, I'm a professional actor. I know how to do this sort of thing. Just look away. Carrie, I'm just talking about yourself. Nothing to see here.
That question was from Sherry Lynn Fry, and along those same lines of creativity and creation for Diana, we had a question from Patricia Sonnenberg asking, what do you do to help your creativity and nourish your creativity when you have a lot of external influences facing you?
Basically, you just work anyway. This is what any professional does. I mean, you get to a certain point, and it really doesn't matter. You know, if you feel like doing it that day, you do it anyway, as Graham can undoubtedly tell you. And sometimes it's the days when you don't feel anything to start with that you do your best work. I remember working in my office, when the kids were 6, 4, and 2 when I began working. So as far as they're concerned, this is just what I've always done. At the age of 4, someone asked my son, "What does your mother do for a living?" And he thought for a minute and replied cautiously, "Well, she looks at her computer a lot." Yeah, the same son at the age of 15 was, sitting on the floor, sort of chatting to me while I was, tidying up my office and, getting ready to work and all that. And he was talking about fantasy novels, which he loved, and I paused and he said, "Boy, I really wish I could do real magic." And I looked at him and I said, "Well, you can, Sam. It's just a lot more work than people think."
Yeah.
Yeah, surprisingly, or not surprisingly, Sam is presently a published novelist himself. His 4th book is just out. Wow. If any of you are in the mood for epic fantasy involving a lot of blood and a lot of hilarious characters, may I recommend A City Stained Red by Sam Sykes, which is what he calls himself, because he was about to call himself Gabaldon. We actually gave all of the kids my husband's name, which is Watkins, because it's much easier to spell and pronounce than mine. But his agent said to him, "Well, W means you'll be down by people's feet in the bookstore shelf. Maybe you want to pick a pseudonym that would get you a better position." So he took Sykes, which is my mother's maiden name.
While we're talking about, again, your writing, I'll stay with Diana because Carrie Hegstrom asked, how do you find some of your obscure experts with whom you consult when you do your research? For instance, the expert on 18th century Polish swear words.
The thing is, if you do something of a creative nature, which is by its nature pretty much setting your foot on a tightrope and going off in the expectation that the other end is attached to something, the universe kind of comes out to meet you. These people come and find me for the most part. I just, for a while I was finding them online in the CompuServe forums. People are fascinated by creative people, especially writers. And, if you ask a question that they know something about, they're delighted to tell you everything they know, which is wonderful. And, one thing leads to another. I believe the Polish expert was actually the father-in-law of one of my friends on CompuServe.
Let's focus now back into Outlander with Graham. And Kay Riley asked, so far, what has been your favorite scene in Outlander to shoot and why?
Oh, gosh, that's a difficult question, actually. Well, there's a few. One of them is the scene with Geordie. That was a great day. I loved working with Brian Larkin in that scene and Kat. And we were very lucky. The director on those episodes was very, very sensitive to that scene. And it was really good. And I have to say that one of my favorite scenes is yet to be broadcast. Yeah. That was a lot of fun. Scenes with Kat have always been really enjoyable for me. She's such a fine actress, and when you work with good people, it makes you better as well. And hopefully that works the other way. And hopefully there's been, a couple of moments where she's enjoyed what I've given her. But I've certainly enjoyed seeing her bring that character to life in the scenes that I've done with her. And it's a great adversarial relationship. It's an interesting, sexually tense experience. Certainly for Dougal, I can only speak personally. But it makes for a good day of work, that's for sure.
Speaking of a good day of work, Grant, Debbie Ford, our organizer here, gave me the line of the idea of grinding your corn and how it was tickling me. And she wanted to know that if you had any idea when that line would be so enjoyed and repeated by Outlander fans, when that moment strike you.
Yeah, that's so funny. I really thought I got away with it. I come to Iowa, I come to like the home of corn, and nobody mentioned it. It's like somebody gave me corn. But all honesty, when we did that scene, which was talking of favourite scenes, that was a favourite scene with Kat. In that amazing location, the Devil's Punch Bowl in just outside Glasgow. We never, in a million years, would I have thought that that line would have that. Right. No. Do you know, I'm racking my brains because I do remember that it wasn't, I'm pretty sure, originally scripted to be in that scene, that line. I think it was a last minute, on the day moment, I think. And it was one of those happy moments where somebody comes up with the moment, and I can't remember who wrote that episode, maybe it was Aya. Anyway, whoever it was on the set and popped in and said, "Why don't you say this?" And you give me to remember the entire line. Okay, hold on. Let me just try and remember. Yes. Well, I have to admit the idea that grinding your corn does tickle me. And it was, I remember Kat on that day just being horrified. But I said, "It's what? Doing what? It's fine. Relax." But there you go. It's funny how things turn out.
If I could add a bit there, they do show me the daily footage that they shoot, Jonathan, which is a lot of fun. And not only because they show me the takes that don't get used as well as those that do. Anyway, I saw that particular scene several times. And at the conclusion of it, Dougal tells Clara that he's decided that she has to marry a Scot in order to save herself from Blackjack Randall. And the scene is meant to end with her demanding and saying, "So I have to marry you?" And he's saying, "No, that's not who I nominate." And so she's saying, "Well, who is it?" Anyway, on this particular take, the director was late, and they didn't shout cut. She's just standing there, in her rigid posture, and finally she says, "Well, who is it? Happy? Dopey? Grumpy?"
There's some great outtakes. She's a terrible laugher. Terrible. Laughs all the time. The wedding scene. There was a moment in that. It was, oh dear. I shouldn't tell you really. But no, I'm just when we were doing the. It had been a very long day, okay? It's been a very long day. Kat and Sam were doing this wonderful, the bows, and it's Sam giving his name. That's a long name. It's a long name. And Duncan Lacroix, who is the biggest prankster going, was standing right next to me. And he was well, you could hear it. I mean, everyone could hear it. He was reciting name after name after name after name. Optimus Prime was one of them, Tarzan. I mean, it just went on and on and on. And it took us, we had to stop it at the end. Because we weren't getting to see Caps just laughing too much every time we would say, Jamie, Malcolm, Alexander, the Optimus Prime. It helps you in some weird way. Sorry, I digress.
As we're talking about the television series, Sandy Bellhouse wanted to ask Diana if you could tell us if it was difficult for you to see some changes from your storyline to the script in the television show, or how you felt about that.
Changes to the script and so forth. No, not really. Ron and Merrill, his production partner, were courteous enough to come out and spend 2 days with me at my home in Scottsdale before he took the show to pitch to the various networks. And they spent the time, talking over storylines and backstory and character, and, asking my opinions about, what I might be doing in future that might affect what they were doing, and, and sharing their ideas about adaptation. Well, I have written for visual mediums. I did write comic books for Walt Disney. I know how you tell a story in visual terms and what you can do with that form as opposed to a text. So I know that it's quite different, and so I kind of understand what adaptation means. I wasn't expecting a literal transcription from page to page. In fact, people used to say, I can't wait to see the movie of your book. I want it to be just the way it is in the book. And I would reply, yeah, which 40 pages do you want? But so I was sort of prepared for this. But, Ron said to me at one point, he said, now the book starts rather slowly, and you can do that in a book because, the prose will haul people along. He said, you can't do that in TV. You've got to catch them in the first few seconds or they'll change the channel. He said, so what I'm thinking is that I'd like to do a little 2-minute visual prologue. Claire is the main character. The story is all about her. We need to appreciate who she is immediately and what she is. And so I'm thinking do this little prologue that is before the book actually starts of her during World War II in the French military hospital with blood squirting, and she's saving people and all this, being who she is and all tough and dynamic and all that, because there'd be a lot of action and rivet people. And I'm going, yeah, great idea. So, we were very much on the same wavelength. So I was not really at all bothered. Now every once in a while, as I say, they do show me the scripts and they show me the dailies and invite me to comment, which I do sparingly and diplomatically because I want them to keep showing me things. But, every once in a while I'll say something. There was the scene where Claire is bandaging Jamie's shoulder and so forth, and at the end he stands up and says, you need not be scared of anyone, of me or of anyone here, as long as I'm with you, and so forth. Well, they had stopped the scene just before that, so that line. They filmed it. They filmed a lot more stuff than you ever see on screen. There's a lot that's lost in editing. But anyway, they had left that off, and I'd seen the rough edit with Ron, actually. And I said, I've been keeping mental notes, and I said, this particular scene here, I said, you stopped it just before the specific line. I said, that's a really iconic line, everybody will be waiting for it, and if they don't hear it, they'll be going, what? And I said, it's only the second episode, that's too soon to make her do that. And I said, but the other thing is that, Sam just looks great in that shot, he's standing there, half naked and bloody, and, they put it back in.
Thank you.
Is there anything, Diana, you can tell us about our future books in the series, or you can say for us?
Well, there is a book 9, I can tell you that much. The next question is usually, when will it be out? That one I can't tell you. I finished Moby, which is what I call the book 8, in mid-April. And we then spent the next 4 weeks, at a high rate of speed doing the copy editing and production and so forth. I then had 3 days during which my husband took me to Disneyland to decompress. And came back and packed, and the book came out the 6th of June. I went to Seattle for the fan retreat. I was gone for the entire summer after that. I did 3 book tours, the US, Canada, the UK, and and it was interspersed with the 2 premieres for the show and a week of PR work for that, and various pickup stuff because Stars kind of piggybacked on the book tours. So yeah, I was totally gone. So did nothing. I mean, you don't do anything. People always say, "Oh, do you work on the road?" I say, "Yeah, let me run down for you what a day on the road is like." But it starts at 4:30 in the morning. It ends around 11 at night when you get back to your hotel room and discover that there is no room service after 11. Which there's not in this hotel, by the way. However, since I've already had dinner, it's not a problem. Normally I don't get dinner because I'm doing the evening event from 7 and so forth, and then I'm signing books for these days up to 1,200 people. There's a heck of a lot of people to sign books for. If it's that many people, I often don't get back till 1 or 2. Or you're being picked up at 4:30 in the morning, so you're sitting there, numb, and you're going to say, "Oh, I think I'll stay up and write another chapter." No, so I do not write on the road. So I got back from that, spent September basically, trying to dig my office out from under the stuff that accumulates during the final frenzy of book tours. And so I'm just barely beginning to scrape acquaintance with Book 9. It's talking to me, and it will come along in its due course. I am trying to push people out of the way enough to make room to actually write on a regular basis. But, normally things go back to what passes for normal after the book tour mania dies down. But with the show, they haven't. Every single morning there's a dozen demands in my inbox from publishers and Stars people and so forth, saying, "Oh, we're writing this one was from Sony, some person I'd never heard of, wrote me last week and said, well, I'm writing the biography of you for the mini documentary that goes in the DVD box." And I said, "Oh, you are?" And she said, "Yes, and I need, I need 3 dozen photos of you from publication to the present day, including research, writing, and interaction with fans. And they should be this resolution featuring only you." Saying I wrote the book, and I began writing the book in 1988. Digital photography didn't exist. I said, bad chance. On the other hand, if I didn't send her stuff, she was going to scrape it up off the internet, and I'd rather she didn't do that. So I spent a day and a half, assembling these photos for this person because she had a deadline. They all have deadlines.
As we wrap up, Graham, I will ask you this. Would you like to ask Diana anything, or would you like to ask us anything, and could we have closing thoughts?
Oh, I thought about asking questions. No. Well, the obvious one is everyone enjoying themselves? Good. Whoever brought me this whiskey, very, very nice. Very nice. So, no, I wish I did have more questions, but no, it's fine.
And Diana saying,
Is she going to raise me from the dead? I know. Now you've spoiled it for me, you see. No. You raised me from the dead. Well, of course, because you could. Well,
Diana, same for you. Closing thoughts. Any questions for us or for Graham?
Do you think anybody might bring me a glass of whiskey?
Absolutely.